There's a moment in any really crowded place, a train station, an airport, a big city street at rush hour, where you suddenly realize that nobody is looking at you. I mean, really looking. Not in the polite way, not in the dismissive way, in the way where somebody actually sees you, sees what kind of day you're having, sees the thing you've been carrying for the last 6 months, sees the weight under your eyes. You can be standing in a crowd of 10,000 people and not be seen by one. And here's what I want to tell you about this week's gospel. It opens with somebody seeing the crowd. Ancient truth for the modern week. From the dusty roads of the first century to the high-speed life of the 21st, we're stripping away the tradition to find the heart of the story. I'm your host, Joe, and this is Monday to Sunday. And this week we're sitting with a passage that, on the surface, is about Jesus sending out the 12 disciples on their first mission. That's the headline. But what I want to do today is go in slow. Because the verse right before he sends them is, in my opinion, one of the most important verses in the whole Gospel of Matthew. And if we skip it, if we hurry to the sending, we miss the whole thing. The passage is Matthew chapter 9, verse 35 through chapter 10, verse 8. The lectionary takes us through verse 23 if you want to keep going, and we'll touch on some of that. But let's start at 9:35. Here's what it says. Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and curing every disease and every sickness. Hold on right there. Picture that. Jesus is everywhere. He is going city to city, village to village, teaching, preaching, healing. He's not setting up a megachurch in Galilee. He's not telling people to come to him. He is going to them. Town by town, door by door, in a sense. And then the next sentence, verse 36, and this is the verse I want you to write down somewhere. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Now I want to slow down on every word in that verse, because every word is doing work. When he saw the crowds, he saw them. He didn't preach over them. He didn't strategize about them. He didn't see a target market or a demographic or a problem to solve. He saw them. And the word in the Greek isn't just to glance. It's to perceive deeply, to take in. He had compassion. The Greek word here, splagchnizomai, is one of the most physical words in the whole New Testament. It literally means he was moved in his gut, in his deepest insides. It is the kind of feeling you have when you see somebody you love in pain and your body responds before your mind does. That's the word. Jesus didn't see a crowd and feel inspired. He saw a crowd and felt it in his bones. Because they were harassed and helpless. The word harassed, in the Greek eskominoa, means worn out, beaten down, worked over. Like someone who's been knocked around by life until they don't have anything left in them. And the word for helpless literally means thrown down, cast aside, dropped where they fell. This is not a description of bad people. This is a description of exhausted people. People who didn't know where to turn anymore. People who had been let down too many times to keep counting. Like sheep without a shepherd. Sheep in the ancient world were not pets. Sheep were animals that genuinely could not function without somebody looking out for them. A sheep without a shepherd wasn't just lonely, it was vulnerable. To predators. To getting lost. To dying of thirst because it didn't know where the water was. Jesus looks at the crowd, and that's what he sees. People who don't know where the water is. People who don't know who's watching out for them. People who have been thrown down. And here's what I want you to feel. I bet some of you know what it is to feel that way. Not in the dramatic way, just in the daily way. You go to work, You come home. You try to be a good parent, or a good partner, or a good kid. You try to keep up with the bills and the news and the texts you owe people. And somewhere underneath all of it, there is just this low, quiet hum of, I'm tired, and I don't really know if anyone sees this. I want you to hear this. He sees you. The way he saw that crowd, with that gut-level compassion. Before you ever speak. Before you ever explain yourself. Before you have your spiritual life cleaned up, he saw them, and he had compassion. Now, here's where the passage turns. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Notice when that line comes. It comes right after he sees the crowd. The harvest is those people, the thrown down, harassed, helpless, exhausted people right in front of him. Those are the harvest. And then he turns. And he calls 12 names. And here is the part one never want anyone to skim past. He calls them by name. Peter, Andrew, James, John, and then sitting right there in the middle of the list, Matthew the tax collector. The text doesn't say the 12 disciples, it says their names, one by one. And Matthew, the guy who is writing this very gospel down, is in the list. He's writing his own name, and he gives himself the title that everybody hated him for. He doesn't say Matthew the apostle. He doesn't say Matthew the evangelist. He says Matthew the tax collector. He's still owning where he came from. Because here's the thing about names. When Jesus names you, he doesn't pretend you weren't who you were. He names you with your story attached. And then he sends them. Now, here is the part that should make us uncomfortable. He sends them with very specific instructions. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment, give without payment. That last line, I think, is the operating system of the whole Christian life. Whatever you've been given by God, peace, forgiveness, mercy, love, perspective, you didn't earn it. So when you give it away, you don't charge for it. And then if you keep reading, he tells them, take no gold or silver, no bag for the journey, no spare tunic, travel light, trust me. And then the warning that I want to sit with for a second, because it's the warning that has stuck with the church for 2,000 years. See, I am sending you out like sheep into the midst of wolves, so be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Sheep into wolves. That's the picture Jesus paints of what he's sending them into. Not a friendly mission trip, not a comfortable little expansion. Sheep into wolves. But notice, he just said the crowds were like sheep without a shepherd, and now he's sending out the 12 as sheep into the midst of wolves. Here's how I read that. The harvest is sheep without a shepherd. The laborers are sheep with one. The laborers aren't tougher. They aren't wolves themselves. They're just sheep who happen to have a shepherd, sent to find the ones who don't. And the instruction is, be wise as serpents, innocent as doves. Don't be naive, don't be reckless, but also, don't be hardened. Don't lose your innocence, carry both at the same time. And he keeps going. When they hand you over, do not worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given to you at that time, for it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. I love that line. Because so much of what stops us from showing up for one another is just not knowing what to say. We don't call the friend who lost a parent because we don't know what to say, so we don't call. And Jesus is saying, when the moment comes, you will be given what to say. Pick up the phone. Let me bring this home. This whole passage is the story of how Jesus sees a hurting crowd, feels it in his gut, and then calls a group of unimpressive people, by name, and sends them out to do something only he could really do. The pattern is consistent. He sees, he feels, he feels. He calls, he sends. And the thing I want you to hear as we close is this: you are seen the way the crowd was seen. Before anything else, you are the one he looks at with that gut-level compassion. Before you're a laborer, you're loved. And then, only then, does he call. You don't have to be impressive. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to take the bag and the sandals. You just have to be willing to be sent. The harvest, 2,000 years later, is still plentiful. There are still thrown down, harassed, helpless people everywhere. The laborers, 2,000 years later, are still few. And the Lord of the harvest, the one who looks at the crowd and feels it in his bones, is still calling people by name, with their stories attached. The tax collectors, the fishermen, the doubters, the deniers, the ones who don't think they're qualified. So here's the question I'll leave you with. What if being seen wasn't the end of it? What if he looked at you the way he looked at that crowd, felt it in his bones, and then said your name? I'm Joe, and this has been Monday to Sunday. Thanks for walking this road with me. Now take this truth into your week, and I'll see you on the next chapter.